Have you ever noticed how your behavior changes the moment you step into an elevator? You walk in normally, you're relaxed, you're yourself. But when the doors close, you adjust your posture, you look at the numbers or the floor, or even your phone to randomly check the weather app or open the calculator. And suddenly, everyone becomes quieter, not because something happened, but because something changed. Elevators are one of the smallest social spaces we enter, and yet, they consistently alter human behavior. The question is, why? Is there any psychology behind one of the most common things that happen to us daily? Well, let's see. Most of our social comfort comes from structure. In almost every environment, we know how to behave. At work, there's a role. At a restaurant, there's etiquette. At a party, interaction is expected. But inside an elevator, the situation is unclear. You're standing very close to strangers. You don't know anyone. But there is no defined reason to interact. You're not introduced, you're not collaborating, you're just there. And there is another interesting thing, because when humans don't have a clear social script, the brain shifts into caution. It minimizes expression, not emotionally but strategically. If there's no clear rule for engagement, neutrality becomes the safest option. And there is another layer happening at the same time. Physical distance. In normal life, strangers stay within what we'd call social distance. In the 60s, anthropologist Edward T. Hall introduced a concept called proxemics, the study of how humans use space in social situations. According to this idea, we all maintain invisible distance zones, but elevators compress that. You're suddenly within personal space range, shoulders closed, backs aligned, minimal room to move. Your body noticed that immediately. Not as danger, but as alertness. When personal space shrinks, the nervous system becomes more controlled. Movements get smaller, posture stiffens slightly. You become more aware of where your body is in relation to others. It's not fear, it's just spatial regulation. And I really think that we all been through the situation. Like, you take care of your movements because you think people will notice. They will, but is that really important? And continuing with that logic, eye contact plays a big role here. In normal situations, eye contact builds connection, but inside an elevator, it can feel loaded, because eye contact implies acknowledgement, and acknowledgement opens the door to interaction. If you look at someone and they look back, there's a split second of decision. Do we nod? Do we smile? Do we speak? Since there is no natural context for conversation, most people avoid starting that chain reaction. So they look away. Not out of rudeness, but to keep the situation simple. And this is even more common to more shy people, because it's even harder to this kind of people to interact with others. So inside this kind of situation, it gets harder. And as I was saying before, you take care of your movements, attitudes, much more than usual. Because elevator silence feels different from normal silence, because it increases self-awareness. There's nothing to focus on except the present moment. No task, no conversation, no distraction is strong enough to pull attention away. So attention turns inward. You become more aware of your breathing, your hands, your facial expression, what you're doing in a moment. And when we become aware of ourselves as we might appear to others, we naturally start adjusting. And that mild self-monitoring creates subtle tension. Not dramatic, but just noticeable. There's also the element of control. In most environments, if you feel uncomfortable, you can leave. But inside an elevator, you can't. The doors are closed, you're moving, you have to wait. Even though it's safe, that temporary lack of control adds a layer of alertness. Humans are more comfortable when they feel autonomous. When autonomy is briefly limited, awareness increases. And when awareness increases, in a confined space, everything feels amplified. And then the door opens, and the shift is immediate. People move differently, breathing relaxes, conversations resume. What changed? Not the people, just the structure. Space expanded, roles returned, freedom of movement came back. The tension wasn't about danger, it was about compressed uncertainty. And once uncertainty dissolves, comfort returns just as quickly. And there's something even more subtle happening inside elevators. It's not just proximity, it's not just silence, it's not just control. I would say that it's something more like synchronization. When a group of strangers enters a small enclosed space, behavior stabilizes almost instantly. Posture becomes similar, movement reduces across everyone. No one announces the rules, but everyone follows them. This is a form of social calibration. Humans constantly read microsignals from each other: body angle, facial tension, stillness, and within seconds, the group settles into a shared behavioral tone. Elevators make that adjustment visible. In open spaces, you have freedom to diverge. In confined spaces, divergence feels louder. So we unconsciously match the energy of the room, not out of the fear, but out of efficiency. Because social harmony reduces cognitive load. The fewer unpredictable variables around us, the more comfortable the brain feels. Elevators compress not just space, but compress social negotiation, and our behavior reorganizes to keep things smooth. So after all of that, what are the main things that we can notice here? Well, elevators aren't inherently awkward. They're psychologically condensed spaces. They combine close proximity, undefined roles, heightened self-awareness, temporary loss of control. Each factor alone is subtle, but together they shift behavior in predictable ways. What makes elevators truly interesting isn't discomfort, it's consistency. And across different cultures, different personalities, most people behave similarly inside of them, which suggests something really important. This is not personality, it's human design adapting to constraints. When a structure is unclear, we minimize movement. When space is compressed, we reduce expression. When roles are undefined, we default to neutrality. We become smaller, quieter, more contained, not because we want to, but because the environment quietly asks us to. Elevators are small experiments in social psychology. They show how sensitive we are to invisible variables, like distance, expectation, social permission, control, and for a few seconds at a time, they quietly reveal how much of our comfort depends on structure, space, clarity. Remove those things, and behavior reorganizes itself almost instantly. If you enjoy looking at ordinary things through a psychological perspective, there's a lot more to explore here. I am making more videos about psychological views of different things, so if you want to, subscribe to my channel. We'll bring you much content here. See you in the next video and thank you for watching till here. Bye.